New York grand jury indicted Jeffrey Epstein on July 8th, 2019, on two counts. One, a
Yes.
count of child sex trafficking, and a second count of conspiracy to engage in child sex trafficking. Uh, so the grand jury was presented something in order to reach that decision. Maureen Comey, pardon me, James Comey's daughter, federal prosecutor, she has all of the grand jury testimony and the search warrants for Epstein's orgy island sealed. There, within that testimony, you would find the evidence that Epstein was involved in child sex trafficking. It also probably tell you a lot about who his clients were. Now, in 2015, I wrote a book called The Clintons' War on Women. The longest chapter in the book is an
Yes.
expose of Epstein, and I name a number of his most prominent clients. They include former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, former U.S. Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell of Maine, a former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, the scientist Stephen Hawking's, and of course, the biggest name of them all, Bill Clinton. These people visited the island multiple times. They were not going there for the weather. So I guess at this juncture, what I would suggest, and I believe, by the way, I believe Kash Patel when he says he does not have evidence of these crimes, that's because the evidence
I do
was
too.
destroyed by his predecessors
Exactly.
under Joe
Yep.
Biden. However, the Justice Department under Pam Bondi could direct the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York to have those documents, the grand jury testimony in Epstein's indictment, and the search warrants unsealed. And I think that would answer the question about who Jeffrey Epstein really was and what he was really doing.
That would have to rely on some level of trust for the Southern District of New York, Roger. I mean, you know as well as I how corrupt SDNY has proven to be over the years, and to think that they could potentially cooperate even with AG Bondi or Kash Patel or anyone who may be against their own internal interests, I think I myself am highly skeptical. That said, I mean, we're looking at increasingly convincing evidence that Epstein was, in fact, deeply entrenched in the intelligence worlds, not only in the United States, but of foreign intelligence agencies, likely Israeli, MI6, other agencies out there that likely used this man's services for way more than blackmail. And yes, everyone's talking about blackmail. That's the hottest headline. But he was, at the heart of it, a really talented money launderer. That's a valuable thing for foreign governments and our government alike.
Yeah, I think that is exactly right. As I said in my book, the U.S. Attorney for South Florida, who basically gave Epstein a slap on the wrist when he was initially charged in
Yes.
Florida, where the police chief in Miami Beach gave the state's attorney an open and shut case of 33 individual underage girls who had been sex trafficked, also an indictment for statutory rape. But the state's attorney came back with one count of solicitation against Epstein. The police chief went to the U.S. attorney, Alex Acosta, to say something's not right here. The state prosecutor was either intimidated or paid off. Acosta conducted his own investigation, whereupon he rubber stamped the state's slap on the wrist, and he sealed the case.
Yep.
It's only because the Palm Beach Post fought in court to get those documents unsealed that we now know the truth. The key point here is that when Acosta was appointed Secretary of Labor, and he was asked, how are you going to explain giving Epstein a pass? The question is raised. He said, I'm going to tell the truth. He was working for the CIA. They asked me to seal the case. Today, he was asked if he recalls that, and he's declining to answer, which I think gives you your
He
answer.
declines to recall.
Yeah, and we also
Yes.
see a document where Epstein reaches an agreement to essentially be a snitch for the FBI. So he very clearly was working as an intelligence asset, not just for us, but I suspect you're right, for Israel, for perhaps the Saudis, and many others, which means there has to be international pressure on the president not to disclose all of this information.